Hi guys, so today I'm be doing a book review video and I can't believe that February is almost done. I mean, I know it's the shortest month of the year, but it just seemed like it went by so fast, even though it really didn't because where I live, it snowed a lot, so we had to stay inside a lot of the time. So I read two books. My library was doing a thing like called Blind Date with a Book, where obviously like they put paper over the book and they write something on the front of it, so you don't know who the author is or what the title of the book is until you open it. And it was kind of like a little like contest kind of where you read whatever the books are, and then there was like a little bookmarker in the book that you rate your date, and you put it in a little container, and then at the end of the month they're gonna say who won, and you get like a little Valentine's Day treat thing. The one book I read, it was really dark. Like, it was darker for me. Like, there were times in the story where I had to actually just stop reading it for a little bit because, you know, when books, like some books, I don't know if it happens to any of you, but when some books just give you, like, a certain emotion and then you just have that emotion for a little bit, that's kind of like me. It was just like a really depressing book, and it made me feel like that, and I didn't want to feel like that. So I'm not going to tell you what the book is because I really did enjoy that book, and I forget what the title of that book was and who the author was. But the other book I read, it was a Jodi Picoult, I don't know if that's how you say her last name, book. And I read some of her books before. I don't remember if, what was that book called? My Sister's Keeper. I don't remember if that book was a Jodi Picoult book, but the books that I read by her, they're kind of sad. And this book was called Mercy, and it was a library book like the other one was, so I don't have it. And it was a larger print book, so it took me a little bit to get through, because it was like 700 some pages because it was larger print. And I liked this book a little bit. The one thing I will say though is that, in my opinion, there was a lot of storylines that went into this book, and every time like we got to a new part or a new chapter, I just wanted to get to the main part of the story. And basically, it's about this couple who the wife had cancer, and um she told him that she had I think it was breast cancer or something that went like spread throughout her whole body, and she was basically like not herself anymore, and she didn't feel pretty anymore, and because she had to get a mastectomy, and she told him that she wanted him to kill her. And so he didn't want to do it because they had such like a great love story. And he just basically, they went to this small town and they had a great time. And then I think it was, he smothered her with a pillow, and that's how she died. And then he took her body in his car or his truck or whatever and went to the police and told them that he murdered his wife. And basically, it's this thing of like, did she really tell him to do this? Did he just do it because he didn't want to be stuck in a life like with whatever like, if he didn't do that, would he be stuck in a life with this woman that, like, would need care all the time, or would maybe die eventually, or whatever it was. And then there was another side story with the cop, the police chief, and his wife, and he was having an affair with a younger woman. And the police chief and the protagonist, they were cousins. And basically, you're like, and then it goes back in time a little bit between the main character's story and with his wife, and how she got cancer, and the whole conversation of how she wanted him to kill her, all this stuff. And it was a good book. It kept my interest. Like I said, I just really wanted to get to the main part because I wanted to know if he was going to be guilty or not guilty. And I'm not going to spoil it. But the one thing I will say, though, is like I wish in the book that when the trial was done, that there was an epilogue in it. And I'm talking about like maybe because when he stopped having the police officer stopped having an affair with the girl, her storyline kind of ended, even though her storyline was basically like her parents were so much in love with each other, they didn't really care about her. Like, they would make out or do stuff in front of her, and they just didn't care about her. Basically, they cared more about themselves than they did about their kid. And that was the whole, like, backstory to her. But then it didn't tell you what happened to her. Like, at the end of the trial, it didn't say what happened to her. So I wish there was an epilogue where it was maybe like a couple months or a year after this all happened, and maybe he finally found a new love, because his wife actually said to him before that event happened that she wanted him to find a new wife, so that way he could have a family that he wanted, because obviously, because she got sick, they couldn't have children, that kind of thing. And so what happens is, I wish there was an epilogue in it to sum up what happened. Like, if the police chief and his wife were still together, or did she finally say, I've had enough, I want something different, that kind of thing. So this book, this is, I think, the second book in this series. I don't even know where I got this book at. I think I got it at Book Bingo. It was either that or it was at, like, a farmer's market. And this is called I guess that's how you say it, Met by Murder. It's a Shakespeare in the Catskills mystery. It's by Elizabeth J. Duncan. This is what it looks like. And it's about a theater company who does Shakespeare plays. And they're doing A Midsummer Night's Dream. And A Midsummer Night's Dream is kind of like, the best way I can describe it is just like, it has fairies in it. The fairies cast the spell over this group of people, and they start falling in love with the wrong people, I guess. And I don't remember, it's been a long time since I read that play, if at the end of the play they got back to the people they were supposed to be married to, or if they married the people that the fairies mixed them up with. I don't remember. But anyway, they were gonna have it, and then there was gonna be a wedding, and it was with this family, old family money kind of family, where, you know, like, the family has been rich for like generations, that kind of thing. It was like old, what do they call it? Old time money, or I forget what they call it. But anyway, they were going to put on this play, and then one of the girl who was getting married, this man that she liked years ago, I shouldn't say she liked, but his family was rich too, and it turns out that her mother wanted her daughter and this man to get married instead of the person that she was actually going to marry. And here he ends up dead in the gardens after the play, when the woman who solves the mystery, she finds him when she has to go back the next day to find the donkey's head for Bottom. There's a guy, I guess he turns into a donkey, or his head gets turned into a donkey's head, I don't know. And so she has to go back to find that, and they find it, but there's a person attached to it that's dead. And she has to figure out what happened. This is a short, to the point story. It only had it almost had 280 pages in it, and that's a good size for a mystery, I feel like. There was, was there 40 chapters in it? I don't remember. And the chapters were short. They weren't very long. They were short. The pages, or the words on the pages, were kind of big. I don't know if you can see it. But yeah, it all in all, it was a good book. I would get more if there's more in this series. I will get it, or at least the first one. So this book, I read this book because in February there's President's Day, and I got these at the library. They were only $1. The library was giving books away that because it was a book that they've had, but they were giving away books that I guess they had for years and years and years, and nobody really wanted them or checked them out anymore, or they were just like there was later additions to it or something. So these books were just $1. I think it was like you filled a bag for $1. And I have another book like this, but this one was, I wanted to read this one or get this one because there's not much about these two presidents except the one was assassinated and then the other one was his vice president, and then he's always like lumped in the middle. Like when they rank presidents, he's either ranked in the middle or towards the bottom because there really isn't that much about him. He didn't really do anything great, I guess, when he was president. So this is called J. Garfield. It's 1831 to 1881, and C. Arthur. It's by 1830 to 1886. It's edited by Howard B. Fur. That's how you say it. I don't know how to say it. It's not a really great book cover. And it's a short book. And basically what it does is I thought it was going to be kind of like a biography-esque type, or it went from when they were president to when they died. And basically what it is the first part of each section, because it's in sections, is about the timeline of his life. Like when he was born, what he did before he was president. It's like a little timeline. That's basically what it goes by. It goes by years and dates, that kind of thing. And then it goes into when he was president, if there was like a war during his presidency, and then how they died. And then the second part of the story is all the speeches they made while they were president. So obviously for Garfield, he got assassinated, so the only speech that was in there was his inauguration address. And then for Chester Arthur, because he lasted his whole term, or the rest of James Garfield's term, it's his inaugural address, his addresses to Congress, like, what do they call them? The State of the Union addresses, but they don't call them that then. They just called him, like, when he addresses the Senate or the Congress or whatever. And then when he wanted to talk about a specific bill that he wanted passed or what he wanted to see changed in a certain bill, most of the speeches in his part of the book were more about, like, the Native Americans and how he wanted, like, the white people to stay clear of the Native American land because it's their land. It's not theirs to settle in. There was stuff about the Chinese, how he wanted the Chinese to be, what do they call it? I'm like, not that I just got up, but he wanted the Chinese to be, people to be nicer to them, kind of. And I forget what the other stuff. There was other stuff about, like, a canal, but he wanted the canal in Colombia, that kind of thing. It was a pretty interesting book. I have another book. I forget who the presidents were in that book, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to read that book next. So this book is called You Like It Darker. It's by Stephen King, and it just has short stories in it. This is what it looks like. It took me a little bit to get through. Some of the stories were better than others. Like, some of them were, like, in the beginning, they were short, and then they started getting longer, and you're like, because when you get to the shorter stories, you're like, how is this book however many pages is it? I think it was 300 some, or maybe 400. It was almost 500. And there was a couple in this book that I liked, and the other ones I really didn't enjoy. The first book was about two men who, one was an author, and I think the other one was like an artist or something. And they their story is basically like they're famous. His the one that's the author, he's dying, and his son wanted to know what happened at this cabin all these years ago, because all they would say in interviews like, oh, we went to this cabin and blah blah blah, and that's how we um became like a great artist and a great author. And here it was because they saved an alien's life at this cabin years and years ago. And the head alien, I guess, he gave them something that was in a bag. And I forget what it was. And that, I don't know, it was like a smoke or something that came at them. And then that's how they became like this famous author and this famous artist. And then he goes back to the cabin to find it. And I don't remember if, well, he found it, but I don't remember if anything happened. I don't remember. And then there was another book, there was another story about aliens where the guy killed his wife, and it was basically at the police station, and he's telling him, oh, like, here's the signs of how you know your wife is an alien, because her moods change, and this thing comes up on your phone, like this red flashing light or something like that, and stuff like that. And then the one story, I think the main story, the headline story, is a story that's kind of like a conclusion to Cujo, and it was called, I think it was called Rattlesnakes. I think that's what it was called, Rattlesnakes. And basically, it's the father from Cujo. His his son died in the original Cujo book, and his wife died. And basically has some backstory in it where after their son died, he divorced her, but it wasn't because their son died. It was because of he found out that his wife was having an affair. And then a couple of years after that, he meets her in this bar, and they start rekindling their love for each other, and they got remarried, and then she got sick and she died, so he's the only one left. And basically, he goes to this place in Florida to like house sit this person's house or get away from everything, something like that. And there's this woman, it's an older woman who goes around, and people know her, they think she's crazy, where she goes around with an empty stroller. And a long time ago, she had twins, and they died to rattlesnakes. And she still thinks they're alive, and she puts clothes in the stroller, everything like that. And here, eventually, she dies, and these ghost children appear to this man. And he's going crazy. He's trying to figure out how to go about trying to either get rid of these ghosts or pass them off to somebody else, that kind of thing. The last story in the book was called The Answer Man, and it was this man who he's downtrodden. He has to make this decision about this woman he loves. And basically, it's if he marries this woman, then because I think it was before like one of the world wars, her father is gonna disinherit her, something like that, or vice versa. And he's walking around, or he's driving around, and he sees this sign for this person called the Answer Man. And basically, the first 3 answers are free, and then you have to start paying for however much like time you get. And every time he goes there to this Answer Man 3 times in his life. And what ends up happening is the Answer Man tells him, this is what's going to happen. You're going to marry this person. Eventually, your parents are all going to, forgive you and blah, blah, blah. You're going to be this and that and stuff like that. And then, obviously, that came true. Then they had a son, and the son loved baseball. And he played baseball, little kid baseball. And the Answer Man comes back. And he's like, is my son gonna play baseball in high school? Is my son gonna be a major league player? And the answer man says no. And then something tragic happens to his son. And then it's just him and his wife. And then I forget what, I don't remember what happened to his wife. I don't remember. But then he meets the answer man a third time. And this is when he's older. When he's old and he's dying. And stuff like that. And I liked some of the stories are really creepy. Some of them were just like, like they were just okay, you know. But I liked most of the stories in this book. There was just like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 that I really didn't like. But I would suggest reading it. Like sometimes with Stephen King's stories, when he just does like short stories like this in a book, I don't really enjoy them because some of them are just like, you know. Like when he first started doing short stories, in like like this, I didn't really like them. But now I don't know if he's gotten better at them or he's had these short stories for a really long time. But now when he does short story collections like this, they're better. So this book is called Olympus. It's volume 2. It's by Rachel Smythe. I think that's how you say her last name. This is what it looks like. And I read the first one, I think last year sometime. I don't remember when it was. And I said that I had the second one. And I was debating about when I read the second one, I would know if I wanted to keep the series or continue on with the series. And I don't think I'm going to. It doesn't, the last like 5 or 10 pages in the book are the best parts in the book because it's like, it's a thing where it says like, oh, I didn't want to put this in the book, but I'm going to put it at the end. And it says like, oh, this part in the book was cut out. And then it shows you like the cutout part of the book or where it should have been in the story. And it just picks up with Hades and Persephone's story. Hera makes Persephone go down as an intern or something to like the corporate underworld world. It's just like, it's supposed to be like a modern take on it, but it's still like in the ancient times because there's still an underworld, but it's basically like a company, which is weird. I don't know. It's because I don't like the modern take on the story. I don't know. But it's like, it's not that it's bad. It's just okay. Like, would I get these books? Would I pay for these books? No. I'd rather get them like at a library, or if I ever get to a book sale again and I see them, I might buy them like cheaper. But it's just an okay series so far, like I said. That's basically the whole gist of the book. And Hades is like, he finds out her age, which she's like 19, and he's obviously like thousands of years old, and he's like, I can't date her because she's too young. She's just in like college or whatever she goes to like a school. So it was just okay, like I said. Like if I see these books at a book sale, I might get them. But other than that, like, I don't know if I'm going to finish the series, or I know there's like a couple of them that are out, and I think it's like 5 or 6. But I don't see them at Walmart anymore. That's where I got these ones. So this one is a classic. Now, I wanted to read this book for Halloween, and I thought it was in the bag, one of the other bags, but here it was in a different bag, so I couldn't read it for Halloween because it wasn't in the right bag. And I couldn't find it because I thought it was in the one bag, and it wasn't. It's called The Phantom of the Opera, and it's by Gaston Leroux. I guess that's how you say his last name because it is French. And it's a Barnes & Noble's classic. This is what it looks like. Now, I've never seen the play. All I know about the play is I think it's kind of like a romance kind of play where the woman falls in love with the man even though he's ugly, I guess. The only thing that comes close to it is when on Disney Channel a long time ago they had on the Phantom of the Megaplex thing. That's the closest that I've ever gotten to that. And I never seen the play. I never read a book about this or whatever. And I liked it. There was 26 pages. There was a foreword in the book. Not by the author, by somebody else. And I liked it. It's about, it's kind of like a mystery mixed with a horror type of thing. The girl gets kidnapped by this angel of music, who's actually the Phantom. and his name's Eric. And all these things keep happening in this opera house in France. And the people that own the theater house or opera house, whatever you want to call it, they want to get to the bottom of it. They want to know who's doing it. They want to know if the ghost is real, all this stuff. And I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to keep this book just because it is like a classic book. Now, I thought because it was a classical book, like a literature type of book, that it was going to be hard to get through. But it really wasn't. Like, most of the chapters were short, and every once in a while there's like a longer chapter. But I enjoyed it. I liked it. So that was my book review video for this month. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.